Heritage Day in South Africa has become a day popularly known as Braai Day, but the day should have a deeper significance rather than a get-together and hangout day that it has become. There are many different cultures that make up the population of South Africa, each with their own unique history and heritage. The realization that culture still has an important role to play within modern-day South Africa can go a long way to ensuring that it does not get watered down, but rather preserved and shared with the future generations.
I think culture plays many different roles, and it is a descriptive term that encompasses many different views and actions and behaviors. But I think, especially as a people, I think it's at least three things we need to expect from culture. One is that it should give a sense of meaning. So it should explain certain things to me, it should position me, it should make me understand something about who I am. Secondly, it's supposed to be a way I should be able to use culture to protect myself when I'm under threat, when I feel that what I believe in and my history and my identity is being ridiculed or being put down. I should have a way to respond to that. And it should also help me to defend myself. There will be threats, there will be attacks maybe from outside, and I should be able to position myself, rooting myself in a worldview and a way of understanding who I am, but also give me a script and some tools for what I do when my culture is being looked down on.
One of the most marginalized groups within our history is the Coys people. History dates the existence of the Khoi people back to 60 and 90,000 years ago. Many of them over the years intermarried with the Dutch and other black ethnic groups after what was termed the Bushman Wars in the 1700s.
So the Coys have been here for millions of years, proof of our existence, that we are the oldest living DNA and that we're the first people. It's actually found in the rock art. But South African history only dates us from the 1500s, but our existence predates that already.
Carlo believes doing away with the coloured term will go a long way in maintaining the culture of the Khoi son. He himself has been able to identify with his roots and since practices that his ancestors were known for as medicine men.
First of all, we need to get rid of the coloured identity, and a lot of our people are lost in that coloured identity. We have a rich, diverse culture, not only indigenous, but there's also slave heritage, which is blended within our culture. So we need to do away with the coloured classification. We need to reintroduce the classification of being Khoi, and then things will change. Until such time, there won't be a change, because currently South Africa is in a black and white struggle. And if you look at our constitution and anything that is in the news media, it's about black and white. So it's not really about South African people on a whole. I think we should actually get back into being proud of our different cultures instead of being so worried about what color you are. It will make a big difference in South Africa. So we'll be more accepting of other people irrespective of the color of their skin as well.
One of the most documented cultural group in Mzansi is the Zulus. They've managed to document their history better than any other tribes with their dance and dress style popular around the globe. We spoke to Ziyanda Mshali from the Lesedi Cultural Village, a tourist destination that gives a glimpse of our various South African cultures.
What I find so interesting is about the wars, the Mfecane wars. King Shaka Zulu's father, King Senzangakhona, he used to use the long throwing spears, and they called it isipapa. So the reason why they called it isipapa is because it had feathers right by the edge. So when he threw it to attack, the feathers will then make that sound, pa 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 pa. And then when Shaka Zulu took over the throne, he then realized that his father was a coward by using the long throwing spear. So what did he do? He took the long throwing spear, cut it into half, created the short stabbing spear, and it was accompanied by the shield, and we call it inkumba. So this is how he used to fight. He would be as closer to the enemy, open the shield to aim for the spot, close it back again to protect himself. He would open the shield, take the spear, stab the enemy into the ribs to the heart. Then he would twist the spear, and it would create this beautiful sound. So the reason why they named the short stabbing spear Iqwa is because of that sound.
The Zulus are part of the Nguni speaking group that were formed after breakaways from tribes. These include the Xhosas, Swazi, Zulus and Amandebele. Amandebele are well known for their colourful artwork in both their clothing and houses. Their unique colours make them stand out and have since found a way to keep that part of their heritage within modern-day South Africa.
Lochani noke babukeli okhuluma ngulusi masomboka unamgwezane ngingunamgwezane khoshali mnyama amanya akhanya ngingumntu akamtsabe bathi umtsabe lo ngubani bathi umtsabe umntu kamgwiri umgwiri olahla amathola ngilihotshela imnyama kanti amanya yakhanya ngisizukulwane sempangela kwathiwa ipangela inyoni bani ipangela inyoni engadliwa abafokazana inyoni edliwa makhosi kwaphela. This is what we embrace as Amandebele. This is what makes us very unique. During the ancient times, we used to dig these colors naturally as they are, the blue color, the white color, the red color. We used to dig them. But now that the land was taken from us, we don't have access to those. But then we use this modernized paint to paint our houses. That's what makes us unique, because we want to keep our prints. Like you go into the South African history, you'll find that now the Bushmen have left their prints on the stones. Now, with us, this is how we keep our prints as Amandebele.
Lucy also believes that young people should take the onus upon themselves to ensure they learn about who they are and where they come from. That is the case with the vibrant TV and radio personality that is Khulisani Ravele. Khulisani went as far as documenting a journey to discover about the history and culture of the Venda people in short form.
Khulisani Ravele. I'm a TV host and a radio presenter. Ndi Muvenda mbikana ivela viva Muvenda asara. As a young South African Heritage Day means to me, it's just a specific day in the calendar where we shine the spotlight upon our cultures, our languages, our traditions, our food, where it is that we come from as a black people specifically. But it's essentially just one day, whereas heritage is an everyday thing. It's who you are, it's who it's what you breathe, it's where you come from. And I have a strong feeling towards, if you don't know where you're coming from, how do you know where you're going? So this is just one day to halala to all our cultures and to learn. I think the important thing about Heritage Day is that it's an opportunity to learn either more about your own culture or that of others. It's got nothing to do with bragging. It's got nothing to do with anything else that somebody else is trying to tell you that this day is about. But
Venda women are known for their respectful and humble nature, with some getting the wrong notion that they are marginalized by their husbands. But it's only through learning and understanding that one gets exposed to the important role they play in decision-making. Khulisani's interest in her culture has led to her understanding of the role, something she can easily be able to pass down to her children in the future.
What I've learned thus far in my few years about womanhood in the Venda culture, that it really is There's a sanctity and beauty in being a woman wa Muvenda. Very respectful, we're leaders of the family in a way, in a big way. So let's say in the chief's family, and you'll probably see it on shows like Mubango, there's Makadzi, who is the advisor. And the king doesn't go anywhere or doesn't make any decisions without you're not speaking to Makadzi, and Kadzi is a fountain of knowledge, is a fountain of truth, is a pillar of keeping you straight. And I believe that's what Venda women or Bafumakazi Baba Venda are. They are that pool of just authenticity, beauty, richness, and it's something I look forward to exploring even more, so that I can truly, come out there and be like, Ndimuvenda, like ndopelela, once I've learned all the other things that come with being a woman.
It's important to note the role culture plays in our households. In fact, some of the troubles we face as society is as a result of not knowing and understanding who we are. While civilization is a good thing, understanding our heritage and asking the questions on why certain things are done in a particular way becomes a great teacher and helper when approaching issues of life.
We have some understanding of culture, and I think culture is very important to our continent and to our people. But I think we have lived for very many years being told that our culture is wrong. Our culture doesn't really hold merit. It's not really progressive. So many of us have been at least challenged. Some of us have even been forced to walk away from our cultural identities and taken on other identities and negotiated away a very distinct African identity. So I think we battle with identity. We battle with culture. We battle with what culture is supposed to be. And I think essentially culture is supposed to be a liberating experience. And I think to some extent, many of us have experienced culture more as an oppressive or forceful way of looking at things than actually being liberated, which has to do with our current confusion.
When it comes to South African history, one cannot go on without mentioning the role of Afrikaner people. Contrary to popular belief, Afrikaners are not just simply Dutch people, but rather a mixture of different races that emerged during colonialization, with their language developing at a later stage too. MD of the Voortrekker Monument, Ms. Cecilia Kruger, sheds more light on their origin.
The history of the Afrikaner is quite a complex story, so I'm going to try and summarize it briefly. As we all know by now, the European settlers came around about the middle of the 17th century and settled at the Cape. They were actually from different European countries, and they moved into the interior looking for grazing for their cattle over the years. As time went by, they developed a need to rule and govern themselves. And this urged them to break away from the Cape Colony, and they moved into the interior. Until that time, there was still nothing like an Afrikaner. It wasn't a nation, it wasn't one group of people. They consisted of mixed blood from local people, from slaves, Malayans, different European countries. So it was a mixed group that actually moved into the interior. The word Afrikaner was actually mentioned by a person of color as early as 1795, round about there, and that terminology seemed to stick. But it wasn't really, as I said, a homogeneous group. Eventually, I think after the Anglo-Boer War, many centuries after the settlement, around about 1900, this group of people, I think, started emerging using one language that had developed as a result of Malayan influence, Dutch influence, German influence, even English influence to a lesser extent. And as such, I think the Afrikaner as a cultural group was born.
Similarly, a group that also emerged and rose above the challenges they first came across when they arrived in South Africa are the Indian people. Narrow-mindedness has allowed us to think of food when we think of Indian people. But these South African Indians went through a struggle when they first arrived 157 years ago. After fighting for freedom, this particular group of people realized their potential and started emerging as a business nation rather than laboring for survival.
So I think well beyond food and saris, the culture or the essence of Indian culture is well beyond that. Yes, many recognize us through the wearing of the sari by our women, as well as the sumptuous and delicious foods that we usually would prepare. But it stems well beyond that in terms of celebrations and festivals. As part of the Indian culture, we are made up of multiple faiths. And yes, there is religious practice within each one of those faiths. But culturally, it's a very colorful, very vibrant culture. And of course, through that vibrancy, you see us constantly celebrating through color, through dance, through food, and of course, through vibrancy.
Their ability to unite under one roof has helped keep the community together, coupled with their various celebrations throughout the year. Next up within their calendar is the Navaratri celebrations, which runs for 9 days and ends with a big bash on the 30th of September in A to celebrate their spiritual identity. Organizations like in Dhoni, South Africa, have since emerged to ensure that many of the cultural events within the black community are celebrated and observed.
Indoni, I'd like to always first explain the word Indoni. Indoni is a fruit. It's a berry that is black in color, and that is where actually that's the gist really of Indoni. It's about being black, and it's about being a fruit. So we're targeting young people, and we are saying you're black, you're beautiful. A fruit is nutritious. It's got a lot of nutrient in it. So we're saying there's a lot of potential in you. So you've got the power and the potential to go out there and feed the nation. So Indoni, as much as an NGO, it's a moral regeneration program. But our basis of what we do is we use culture and African identity to influence whatever we want to influence. Of course, our mandate is to influence social ills out there. But how we deal with social ills is we say, what does your culture say about a certain behavior? Because truth be told, every social ill that is out there, whether we're talking about teen pregnancy, whether we're talking about drug use, whether we're talking about unemployment, or whatever it is, it all boils down to a behavior. So us, Indoni, we've decided to say, how do we influence young people's behavior? First, by teaching them who they are and grounding them in their identity. And that is how we then influence their behavior and influence the social ill.
Amanda Bele, who actually celebrated the initiation of Boys to Men this year, have ensured they celebrate and observe their cultural events and practice their traditions despite the modernization of their people.
Okay, for the men goes for initiations once in 4 years. We call that Ingoma. Like this year, it was the year for Ingoma. All initiates men will be taken to the mountain. That is a rite of passage that is led by men. Women are not involved in that. But women are also part of that. Everybody, even the children, are part of that because each and every family member has got a role that he plays in ensuring that the cultural rite of passage is perfectly done and then supporting each other as a family. When boys are going, fathers will lead, mothers will play their roles, and the little children will also play their role.
Many South Africans have moved away from their households in search of greener pastures. This has led to some of them moving away from their culture and traditions. The few that actually practice are able to ensure that their stories are told and shared with the rest of the world.
Libitso ke nna Flora ke tswa Bolobedu ene bulobeli gwa kosimujaji kosi jejar na dia fabana ene uno kosimujaji uno kosi skukuni ene habutsi mole selimu kidile mole selimu ga from 1995 ene merego arena ria kopa bulogo ribile re sedama bele ribile ria biale boso ya borena ria biale mashoji mola ben la borena mapedi mole seti mabeli ba were fabana ono mabeli ya balobelu ono mabeli ya skukuni mabeli abutsi mara rena ke rena balobelu mara re fapane ga rena re ba balobelu re apa bana bangwe ba ababe bona ba bulela ene re fapane ga lo ba Sotho ono le Batswana ene Batswana bona aba ba bua ono le Basotho le bona re fapane ga le bulela mara abutsi re batho ga bati re fapane ga ene ga le bulela ga mkore bulela gona ga rena babedi ba balobelu re apa more gwa wona.
Whether it be food, dressing up, or celebrating certain rituals, one day throughout the year is not enough to remind ourselves of where we come from, let alone learn about who we are as the Rainbow Nation.
I think we live in a time where especially the younger generation are asking very relevant questions. When it comes to spirituality, faith, and culture, they are a generation that maybe for the first time in many families are the voices of doubt, voices of saying, is this really the full truth? Don't we also have a script as African people? Isn't there a different way we should accentuate our powers and our identities? And some people are troubled by that because we have lived for such a long time under someone else's universal culture. Now it's time for us to really look at the world through our eyes. And I think we are uncomfortable with it. I think we are fearful of it. But I think inevitably we will have to find back to our own script. And I think young voices, through asking very blunt and confrontational questions, are helping us to get there.
You know, as in Dhoni, we have events throughout the year. You know, we don't celebrate our heritage only in September, but we have functions and programs throughout the year that honor our heritage. For example, throughout the year in every province, we've got a culture school, you know, which is an African school teaching young black kids about their culture, about their identity, about their language, about principles and values and norms within their culture. So those happen throughout the year. We have an intake at the beginning of the year, and within a year we take in 2,400 young people whom we group according to their culture. So for example, in KZN kids would be taught about the Zulu culture. In the Eastern Cape, about Xhosa culture. In Limpopo, about the Venda, the Tsonga, the Bedi cultures. So in all these cultures, we teach these young people about themselves first. Then, in Heritage Month, which is now, we then bring all of them together. That is our social cohesion program, where we bring all our kids together so that they begin to teach each other, you know, and learn from each other, you know. And for us, that has been our most successful program, because you then hear a Tsonga child speaking isiXhosa, for example, or understanding what the Xhosa culture is. And I think for us, that is a success point, because that is the first point of us breaking what was instilled within us as Africans, you know, by colonialism, to always judge each other, to always look down on each other, because that's where it begins. We look down on each other's cultures. If I don't understand why a Tsonga person wears Ishbelani, and I don't know what Ishbelani stands for and what it means, it would be so much easier for me to ridicule it and make fun of it. But once I know you and understand your culture, I begin to respect you. And that is at the point where we as Ndoni have started playing in young people, teaching young people to first respect each other, you know, respecting their cultures, respecting each other as black people. And that is the only way they can unite, by us saying know each other and respect each other, so that you together, you know, as our future black leaders, you are able to do things in unity, rather than being divided by rivers and, you know, by you know, cultures, etc.
It is up to an individual to learn about their history and way of doing things, something that could help with many of the issues we face today.
How I've been able to embrace my culture as a young Venda person is, I mean, I'm a thoroughbred, so both my parents and Venda. And what I found difficult in this space as a young South African is growing up Kokasi and how our cultures and traditions are watered down because we are an amalgamation of all these cultures coming together, you know. So what I've been doing in the past few months and years is really just taking a concerted effort to learn more about my culture. Something as simple as it disturbs me that I know how to say certain idioms and sayings in English, you know, like a tree does not, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I don't know how to say that in my home language because I was never taught, you know. I didn't grow up reading and writing Gachivenda, and now as an adult it has fallen upon me to invest in doing that for myself. So I have like a Venda dictionary that, you know, I read and I practice. I bought a Venda Bible, Chivenda Bible, so that I can learn how to read and write and be able to pass that on to my children as well one day.
It's also important to learn about each other's cultures, as this will help bring understanding and unity amongst our people.
I think knowing where you come from obviously helps to know who you are and where you're going to. I think we should use our heritage to enlighten one another about our histories. We're together in this country, it enriches us. No culture can exist on its own, and as on an island. We're part of a diverse community, and as we all know, once you get to know people, you understand them better and you're willing to work together. And I think we should focus on that and get away from politics and all these other nasty things and just get to know one another's culture.
Our culture is not there to offend or belittle people. In fact, many of the practices are done in a way to protect our families and our communities.